Hey Jai. Hey audience. I'm back. It's been a while, but felt like I really needed to do a video this time around, and trust me, I will be back on the consistent video train. Um, what I want to talk about today. Obviously, it's been a week since the election, so that's going to be the primary focus of this video. But before I get into that, just want to let you know you can subscribe and catch all Hey Jai content, NIT podcast content, JTS After Dark clips, Nerdology clips. You can catch all that on the IMS Studios YouTube channel, and you see on the ticker below the Instagram page for IMS Productions 2023. You'll catch all the reels, all our partnerships there, as well as an outline of our services. We don't just make content, we help create the content. We are introspective media solutions, so bring your vision to life. But without further ado, let's get into the meat and potatoes. Election recap. Uh, it's been about a week at the time of this recording. It's been about a week since the election, where Donald Trump won his campaign, and the Republican Party, their campaign, won over Kamala Harris, and Donald Trump will be the president-elect, I guess. Um, He'll be the president for the next 4 years for a second term. He'll be the 47th president of the United States. That's what I was trying to say. 47. A lot of people are polarized by this opinion or by this election. They were polarized by the outcome pretty much since Donald Trump became. I'm not gonna say since Donald Trump. I'm gonna straight up just say since the whole MAGA campaign, which is Donald Trump, but since that campaign, which is my first election to vote back in 2016, politics have been very performative as well as polarizing, divisive, intense. And growing up through the Obama administration, through the tail end of the Bush administration, maybe it's because I wasn't as in tune because I was a child, obviously, but it just seemed like the politics were had a little bit more class. It felt like it was a realm for those that had to be educated in it. I thought about going to college for political science, you know. But now it seems very, I don't want to say to the common man, but it seems like it's an arena that the common man plays in. And I think that is important. I think that's a very good thing. That it is accessible, that it is talked about, that it is as intense and passionate. But I think that with that comes a responsibility to be informed. And, a lot of people are outraged on this. A lot of people have strong opinions on this. A lot of people are outraged. A lot of people are celebrating. And frankly, from everything that I've heard, I think that it seems like a lot of people just hopped on Twitter and listened to what somebody else told them without doing any kind of real research. Even the side that won, the MAGA side, they were like, well, what do you mean if this is happening? No, Donald Trump's in office. Eggs is going to go back to $2 now. All right. Stupid shit like that. I've also seen a lot of outrage, a lot of intense outrage behind it. And I think that some of that is performative. I think that had a woman screaming in her car and stuff like that. I think that some of that is misplaced. You see people lashing out at, other minorities on minorities. You know what I'm saying? Like this, it is what it is, right? But there are two groups of people. I'm not gonna say two groups really. There's one group of people that I feel deserves to be outraged at the results of this election, and that is Black women. It's not necessarily just Democratic Black women. It's not necessarily just women in general because of some of the proposed issues with Donald Trump and his campaign that we're running on. A lot of that has, to do with police women's rights. It's not just a people that are of, middle class, lower, poor class, or anything like that. The financial ramifications behind it. I think a lot of people that should be outraged, the people that should be outraged, I'm not gonna say all the people, but the people that should be outraged the most are black women at the results of this election, because regardless of how you feel about Kamala Harris, regardless of how you feel about her policies, um, regardless of how you feel about how her campaign went, we gotta call a spade a fucking spade. Donald Trump has no qualifications, no ramifications, not ramifications. Oh, sound like Steve Ayer. Has no qualifications, has no bearing, has no resume that he should have ever been president the first time, let alone do that shit again. That is silly. That is silly. Yes, I know he was a successful businessman, but he was more of a celebrity. In my lifetime, Donald Trump was more of a celebrity than a businessman. Growing up for me as a kid, people that was famous for being rich, it was Donald Trump. He owned Trump Towers, but he was more of a celebrity. He was on The Apprentice. His father gave him a small loan of $1 million, right? So, in no world is he qualified to truly necessarily run the country. Like, I'm sorry, he just isn't. He just isn't. It's as simple as that. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're Democrat. There is a certain level of, like, my nigga, are you serious? Like, it just comes down to that. How he speaks to people, how he carries himself. And we haven't even gotten into the felony charges, the rape suit. Can I say that on YouTube in the first 10 minutes? The sexual assault suit, right? He has that on his jacket. He got 34 felonies the other day, like a couple of months ago. We was all there. Shout out to the little thumbs up in the chat on the stream, and people elected him president by a large amount. And this is why I said that black women have the most credence to be outraged, because a black woman, and I'm reading off her stats now, right? This is why I say they have the most to be outraged. I'm reading off her stats now, her resume, rather. Or matter of fact, let me just put it on the screen. All right. One second. Vice President, 49th Vice President of the United States. United States Senator of California for 5 years. Attorney General of California for 6 years. District Attorney of San Francisco for 7 years. Come on, man. She served in the judicial branch of government. She served in the legislative branch of government. And she served in the executive branch of government. Come on. That is her resume. That is her resume against a guy who went bankrupt X amount of times, a 34 count felon. 34 count felon. And that's who people elected. So when I say that black women have the right to be the most outraged, the most credence to be the most outraged, because they had to watch the country. They had to watch America said that no matter, even with all those qualifications, we would still rather pick a guy who doesn't have a plan. He said he has concepts of a plan. Those are his words. Said grab him by the, right? I won't say that word because my mom watches this. 34 felonies. He's a felon. That's on record. He is a felon. A felon. He's 78. The whole thing about Joe Biden, he was too old. Donald Trump was in the crib right next to him. They told black women, they looked y'all in the face. The country looked y'all in the face and said that we would rather have that person than you. So yes, damn right. If a black woman has a problem with what's going on, a black woman, to me, I'm going to give you all the grace and all the space you need to be outraged, regardless of how you feel about Kamala's, regardless of how you feel about Kamala's campaign, regardless of how you feel about Kamala the candidate. She should have beat him. With anybody with sense. With anybody with sense should have beat him. And we're going to talk about, you know, my thoughts on how she actually ran the campaign down the line. You know, my issues with that. But she should have beat him. And I think that's a slap in the face to black women. Now, Malcolm X said that's the most disrespected thing on the planet. It's the most disrespected person in the country. You know, and I'm not even trying to be Mr. Pander or anything like that, because that's probably what it's going to be considered as. But I'm sorry, that's just disrespectful. It really is. So that's the group that has to be outraged. So now that I got that piece out the way, I can kind of get back into my neutral bag. But I'm sorry, that actually, honestly, that actually pissed me off. You know, but let's get into dissecting the campaign and why I think that, again, if it was against a regular politician, sure. And Kamala got smoked, sure. There are rational reasons behind it. And so I'm going to kind of give you a breakdown of why I think that was the case, you know, with her campaign. One, I think that she didn't try to lean into her advantage. She leaned into her base a lot. She knew she was going to have the LGBTQ vote. She knew she was going to have the black woman vote. She knew she was going to have a lot of liberal facing votes, right? She knew she was going to probably get the educated votes, which she had that by a landslide, the college educated votes. Most people with secondary education, she had that overwhelmingly, like, right? So she knew she was going to get this. So she leaned into her base, but I don't think she leaned into what made her better, which is the fact of, you just saw me post up her resume. She did not lean on her resume at all. Rather, she leaned on the fact of Donald Trump is bad. I'm better than Donald. Donald Trump is bad. He's worse than me. Not necessarily stating of how you're better. So I felt that she did that a lot. And this is just from my view perspective. I felt that she did that a lot. I felt that a lot of the endorsements was way too much of a show. And I think that's playing his game. That's not playing your game. Donald Trump is charismatic. He's a charismatic individual. People liked him. Like I said, he was a celebrity for a long time. So he knew how to operate in that realm. He got voted into office the first time because he was a celebrity. You know, so it makes sense that he would kind of dominate in that space, in that realm. She didn't. I think she should have played more into policy. I think she focused a lot too much on, or rather, the things that she tried to appease to, they used that to gut her. I can't tell you how many times I saw the ad of Kamala Harris is for they, them. Donald Trump is for you. You know, knowing that the idea of trans in America, the pronouns, the LGBTQ community as a whole, the views on them, things like that, how that's viewed in America, they took advantage of that, right? They took advantage of, I don't want to say her weakness in that, but they made it a weakness. They made it a weakness on the other side of the campaign. So I feel like that she should have, when trying to be inclusive to all, I don't think that she shouldn't have focused on a marginalized group, because you got to win your other group. You knew the marginalized groups was going to be with you for the most part, or so she thought. I guess it was all wrong on that one. I think she should have tried to appease more into, honestly, the people that were complaining. A lot of people were complaining about the biggest thing was inflation. They know that, hey, Donald Trump, whenever he was in office, the economy was better, which was, hey, pre-COVID. When Donald Trump was in office, I got $1,200. I got tax bailouts and things like that, which that's all they know. People don't have the exact political knowledge or ramifications. So I think she should have tried to lean a little bit more and cater more towards that base. Now, granted, there were some people that was just never going. They're just never going to get you. There are some people that did not want a woman leader. I know a strong MAGA supporter that when it was all said and done, that was his thing. He did not want a woman being president, right? So you can't get everybody. But I think if you would have leaned a little bit more into that, I think that would have fared you well. I said don't play the showy games, you know. Like I said, when I started this video off, I said that, in the past 8 years or so, elections have gotten very performative and polarizing. Man, she had every celebrity out there, and I know Donald Trump did the same thing, but like I said, you shouldn't try to play his game. I think you should have focused on being the professional out there. Having Megan Thee Stallion on stage shaking ass, having Glorilla up there having her whole song bleeped out because it's not the time for that. It's not the time for that because that's not your strength. You aren't that candidate. You are the smart one, to put it like you aren't the charismatic student. You're the smart student. You aren't the class clown. You're the class president, right? You got to lean into that. And listen, I don't know nothing about an election. This is just my point of view from how I looked at it. So I want to have that caveat. I think she should have leaned into that. Yes, I know Donald Trump had Hulk Hogan and rappers in there to try to get the black vote, and he had the comedian in there, which I ain't gonna lie. The fact that he won after the Kill Tony little racist rant, that was that tells you where a lot of people's priorities really are and how they view y'all. But man, it was just a couple of missteps, I'm not about to pretend to be like the most politically savvy whenever it came to her policies, whenever it came to, where this country would have been headed. I haven't been happy with things that have gone on in the Biden administration. I know a lot of that has to do with what happened in the Trump administration. I know a lot of that has to do with what overcame from COVID. But there's a lot of missteps that you just hear people complain about. The things on immigration, she didn't address that. That's a real complaint amongst real people, right? Sending all the money to Ukraine, how they were handling Israel. Now, I'm sure she was in a tough spot because you can't really say anything about Israel because of them folks. But like, damn, I don't know. I just feel like there's a better way for her to maneuver around it. One of my biggest issues I took personally is a black man who still voted for her. I voted for Kamala Harris, but one of the things that I didn't appreciate was how she kind of went at getting the black male vote. One, I think that was a crock of shit. The divisive rhetoric of saying that, black men are supporting Kamala Harris and blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? Of course, there was a sect, and of course, it was more than what black women voted for Kamala Harris, but it was still so much more overwhelmingly in that side in terms of male voters that voted for her. So I think that was just a crock of shit that was being spewed and pushed and something further to divide black people. But I don't know, some of the ways that she went about getting black men, I don't know. I just felt like it was a little bit tasteless. It was a little bit insulting when she kind of scrambled and came out with that little policy of saying that, it seemed like she got her points from Twitter, or it seemed like whoever was running her black men division was a black woman that doesn't like black men, to be honest with you. Like that's how it came off Um, oh, I'm setting up grants for black males to have marijuana businesses. What the fuck? Like that's weird. Or and I know that's not the exact thing, but I know that was somewhere like that was like just the way she went about it. You know what I'm saying? Like that. I know that's not the exact verbiage in there in the, I guess, mission that she tried to put to support black men, but I feel like she felt out of touch, and her being a black woman being out of touch with black men, it just didn't resonate well. I just felt like there's just ways to went about it. She went about it as if she was a white woman trying to get the black vote. like like I don't know. I think that, like I said, personally, I think that she should have tried to just stand on being the more competent candidate. I think that would have presented her in a better light to me. Me personally, like the balloon popping ad, that was a smack in the face. I'm not even gonna lie to you. And if I didn't have any sense, if I was ignorant and emotional, that would have lost my vote. But I still had sense to be like, because I mean, obviously I'm not going to vote for the other guy because I mean, come on. But that was a smack in the face. That's what you think of black men, and I think that kind of rhetoric is one of the bigger issues of why she wasn't popular to begin with. I think the Democrats, which is we can get to the biggest fall of her election. I think the Democrats, they went the wrong way about it by not having an actual nominee, by not getting Joe Biden out of there earlier, and by basing the whole campaign of Donald Trump is bad. It's not based off of why I'm good. So much of it was he was fucked up is not I'm good. And I think that was the angle that she should have played, because he was playing the Kamala Harris is bad. The Democrats are bad. And his base aligns much more with the common man in America than your base and your people. It just does. I'm sorry, but it just does. Most of America does not care about trans rights. Most of America does not like immigrants. Most of America knows that whenever one guy was in office, they had more money, and whenever this guy's in office, they did not. Most of America doesn't know how, honestly, government spending works. So whenever they feel that you're poor and they see that all of this money is going over to Ukraine and going over to Israel and things like that, they just see the money leaving and not coming to them. So Donald Trump played into that. Most of America lives off of traditional Christian values whenever it comes to public facing. And I'm going to do a whole other video on that, and I'm going to have a guest for that one, about how that really changed the election. All right. Most of America is going to listen to Joe Rogan and not Shannon Sharp. You didn't play into most of America. You leaned into your base, but you did it poorly. And I think, like I said, it would have been respectable or valid for her to lose that way to anybody else if she ran the same campaign. I'm not gonna say anybody. I'm not gonna say anybody else. Hold on one second. But for her to lose to him like that, him who isn't educated, he who, he doesn't even reflect the best interest of the common man, right? He who is a felon. I already ran off his rap sheet. You know what I'm saying? Choose him as the leader of the free world over Kamala Harris. That was the insulting part. There is no real politician that should lose to Donald Trump. Hillary shouldn't have lost to Donald Trump. But Hillary, I don't think she got the resume that Kamala has. So, like I said, man, Black women deserve to be outraged, and you're not gonna hear me say nothing bad about black women throughout this time because the country looked at y'all in the face and said, "We don't want you running it." They essentially put a baboon in office and said, "We would rather have that than you running it." And I'm specifically saying black women and not all women because the white women and the Latino women showed their ass and they showed y'all what they was about. They do not care. They do not align that with y'all. And this kind of leads into the next point. Is it okay to be selfish? Holistically, I think selfish has such a negative connotation on it. I think that a lot of people view selfishness as you're taking something from someone else. But selfishness inherently isn't bad, in my opinion. I think it's making sure that you're straight. And I don't think you can do for others until you yourself are straight. I think that Steve Harvey has a joke. He said the best thing you can do for broke people is not be one of them. And while on the surface, that's true because there was like a whole thing about his cousins and stuff borrowing money, right? I think that whenever it comes to issues, community issues, I think throughout human history, everybody has been selfish. But I do think there are times where you do need to be selfless. Whenever you come into society, you have to be selfless for the needs of the group. But you're going to be a little selfish because all groups aren't going to be the same. The nobles are going to look for the nobles. The rich are going to look for the rich. The poor are going to look for the poor. We're going to be divided by territory, tribe, countrymen, race, gender. And I think you have to understand where you fall in the group. And I think you have to be selfish with that mindset of what best interests me and what best interests my group. Because that's the only way for advancement. I do think there is selflessness that needs to take place for advancement, especially if you're a part of a group that isn't marginalized. Nobody is truly an individual in every second of the day. Sometimes you're a group. A lot of you black MAGA supporters, they don't fuck with y'all. They got y'all vote. They do not fuck with y'all. They had the one clip of the rally. I wish I had it in here. I'm probably not gonna put it in here, to be honest with you. It was one of the Trump rallies. It was a black dude getting jumped by 4 white dudes, and they was all wearing "Make America Great Again" hats. They don't fuck with y'all. You feel me? On the internet, you try to say it's gonna be so controversial. People try to say that a lot of Hispanics and black people rock together. That is not always the case, and they kind of showed you with the groups. They do not fuck with y'all. Donald Trump and the MAGA campaign has been more racist to Hispanics than anybody else, and they still voted for him over a black woman. Keep that in mind. And I'm not saying that the whole election came down to that, but that is a very key factor whenever you look at the incompetence of the other candidate, right? And so while the popular rhetoric, at least on the internet space, right? Because this is the internet show. So we're going to talk about it from the guise of the internet. It's black women, black men versus black women. Look at everybody else, man. Whenever they come together, it has real ramifications. 9 times out of 10, we're going to be the ones holding the bag. You kind of got to watch who you align yourself with whenever you divest from your needs. When you are black in America, you are black in America first. I can't speak for other countries. I can't speak for anywhere else, but you are black in America first. We unfortunately, do not have the luxury of intersectionality. And I know that tries to be the case, but we do not have the luxury of intersectionality. We just don't. Black men will never be on a scale way of white men. Black women will never be on the same scale as white women. Black LGBTQ people will never be on the same as white LGBTQ people, and how they are viewed, how they are perceived, and how they are sloped. They'll never be equally yoked. I said it, yoked. That might be a better word. I don't know. That kind of comes from the Bible. I'm rambling right now, but it's never going to be viewed the same. In the eyes of society, it's always going to be a step back, and it's not just from white people. It's from everybody. Everybody is going to put us at the bottom of the pole. And I'm not one of those. I'm not about to say that, oh, we got to start being rude and oppressive and discriminatory to every other race. But I'm just saying you kind of have to look at your community first. And you have to move as a community first. The most advancement that Black people have gotten was at a time whenever we had nothing but each other, when we had nothing but our own communities, right? And I think that's been lost. That's been blurred. That's been blinded because we've now that they let a couple of us into these subgroups, whether it's through classism, whether it's through gender, whether it's through affiliation, whether it's through a network. They'll let one or two of you in, but there is a hard glass ceiling in this country. So it's okay to be selfish. And now let's just go to every marginalized group, right? You gotta vote for you. If you're rich, if you in the 1% and you voted for Donald Trump, I'm not mad at you because he's probably gonna put some shit in place to make you even more money. That's just the way it is. You feel me? If you felt that your people, if you felt that your group can benefit from it, if you felt that you benefit from it, from let's just get off the election right now, in any decision, it's okay to be selfish. If it doesn't directly hurt others, go for it. If it could have a cause and effect on someone else, then weigh your options. But personally, I think it is okay to be selfish. And I think that that's human nature. You know, I believe in three structures in life: chaos, order, and selfishness. I think those are the three pillars of honestly human society. I don't think that it's just good and evil. I don't think it's just black and white. I don't think it's just this or that. I say chaos and order because I believe that when something is raw and unfiltered and unmonitored, it's chaos. And I think that in our natural form, we're chaotic. I think in our best form, we are structured with order. The Egyptians believed in that. That was bigger for them than good and evil, but chaos and order. But the two cannot exist without each other. And I think that selfishness is like just the cherry on top. Which one benefits me the most? Because selfishness or survival, that's something shared across everything with a brain, with DNA, everything with DNA. We have the same goal. What do I need to do to survive? For me and mine to survive. So it's okay to be selfish. It's okay to be intense. It's okay to survive. And every decision that you make every day is going to be lead towards survival. And that's not necessarily just life or death survival, but the life or death of your dreams, the life or death of your aspirations, the life or death of your purpose, you know, um, the life or death of your joy, your mental, your growth, your development, all of that. How is that going to survive? What are you selfishly doing that day, that hour, that minute? What are you selfishly doing with your time, with your energy to do that? So I think it's okay to be selfish, especially if it doesn't hurt others. Last thing I want to touch on, well, the game is the game, right? Um, this is just something I found like a little interesting. The the way that the world has shifted in information, in media, in interaction, it's insane to me. I touched on a little bit earlier about like how politicians were more classy, they were more political, they felt a little bit more adult, right? I don't think that's the game anymore. Not saying that. I think that if you want to get something mass across, you got to use the internet. You got to go on a podcast. You got to go on Rogan, right? You gotta you gotta know how to you gotta know how to put your pulse on people, right? And I think that's all part of the game because I think that if you look at it from you can't look at stuff as just pure logic anymore. Once you get to a certain level of understanding, or you get into a certain position, you gotta start saying, okay, am I gonna play the game to stay in this position, or am I gonna view it from I guess a logic standpoint or an inherent moral compass or something like that, right? Am I going to look at my own morals and subjugate myself to certain stuff? You know what I'm saying? Am I going to put my pride and ego to the side to do that? Right? Like Donald Trump knew how to play the game. I will give him that credit. He knew how to play the game. He went on a former president went on a stream with Aiden Ross. Aiden Ross is just a little bumblefuck kid who, for some reason, had like all the rappers on his streams and just used to listen to music. Right? He made his bones off of hip hop culture. I don't want to necessarily just say black culture because that's a whole other thing, right? And Donald Trump knew that that dude had a super large audience and knew that his audience was full of, I don't want to say He-Man woman haters, but that type of vibe. So who better whenever I'm going against a woman presidential candidate to go hit up? I'm gonna go hit him up, right? And I'm going to radicalize that base because that base is larger and that's my base. They're more aligned to my base, right? So he knew how to play the game. And you got people like Waka Flocka endorsing Trump, Le'Veon Bell endorsing Trump, AB endorsing Trump. People that honestly wouldn't be, I'm not gonna say not respected, but well, for one, the millionaires, two, allegedly, two, they're not exactly pillars in our community, nor I think would they be in a long time. Right? They're just celebrities who just yap at the mouth. So why not get behind this to open up another door or another arena, so another galvanizing force, right? And they did. And then so the game in them, I'm sure they know that like people are outraged saying that, oh, they're being exploited, they're being a token black, blah 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 blah. I'm sure they know that, but I'm sure the payola was worth it. I'm sure the connections was worth it. The networking that they got from it was worth it to them. Kind of goes back to that selfishness, but the game is the game. Amber Rose. Amber Rose endorsed Donald Trump. Donald Trump is actively aligning himself to, I guess, put limits on certain women's rights. Their biological rights. Amber Rose, the creator of Slutwalk. Amber Rose, who's the only reason I know her is for fucking celebrities and being fine. She was endorsing Donald Trump, who had policies that was actively against a woman. She didn't endorse a woman president. That could have been the first woman president. Because the game is the game. Because she know that shit was not coming to her doorstep. Let's keep it a buck. Abortion was a hot button issue about this election and the right to have it. You don't think that Amber Rose, if she wanted to get an abortion, she can't go get an abortion? She wouldn't be able to go get an abortion? Of course she fucking would. She's in a different class than you. She just is. And I'm not saying she's a different class socially, she's a different class money wise than most of you that this is actually going to affect. So she was playing the game to help benefit her the most. And that's what it was. The game is the game. So, can you be mad at the game? Can you choose not to play? Can you be mad at the game whenever it doesn't work out for you? Maybe. Can you choose not to play next time? Well, that depends. What do you lose for not playing? It's not just opportunity. Whenever you come to livelihood of a sect of people, a race of people, groups of people, genders of people, social classes of people, then you might have to play the game. And that's whether with voting, that's whether with campaigning, that's with aligning yourself, that's with publicly speaking, that's with giving whatever. So that's just my thoughts on it. On the election, some things that I took away from it. First video back, I felt like it was an important one. I'm actually gonna put this one out pretty early, so this should be coming out on the 12th, or the 13th. Hopefully the 12th. But yeah, man. I would say for everybody, do your due diligence. If you're gonna play the game of America season 2028, do your due diligence ahead of time. Get into your primary elections. Actually learn the policies and don't just go flapping at the gums. And don't believe everything that somebody tells you. Think for yourself. Have your own opinion. Be selfish. And well, hopefully on a bigger platform in 4 years, we'll be talking about another recap. And who knows? The next presidential candidate might come on my show. But until then, it's Jai. I'm out.